Hello and welcome to The Art of Driving presented by Apollo Tyres. In this episode, we're going to talk to you about the different kinds of suspension and signs that point to the fact that your suspension has trouble. The four wheels of a car work together in pairs. So the front wheels work together connected by the front axle and the rear together by the rear axle. So a car could have different kinds of suspension at the front and at the rear. The kind of suspensions are largely defined by whether the wheels work in a fixed manner together or whether they work independently of one another. If a rigid axle binds the wheels, it's termed as a non-independent suspension. And when the wheels can move differently from one another, it's called an independent suspension. So let's talk about the different kinds of independent suspensions. The MCPHERSON strut is a very popular and lightweight kind of independent suspension where the coil spring and the shock absorber are combined into a single unit. The next kind is the double wishbone or the A-arm suspension. It typically uses two wishbone-shaped arms to locate or hold the wheel in place. Each wishbone has two mounting positions to the frame and one at the wheel. It also has a shock absorber and a coil spring to absorb vibrations. Lastly, let's talk about the multi-link suspension. This is basically the latest version of the double wishbone system. It uses three or more lateral arms and one more longitudinal arm, which can be angled in any direction, allowing for better compromise between ride and handling. These are more likely to be used on performance cars. Well, we broadly and in a simplified manner explain to you the suspension components in more popular systems. So before we sign off, here's a checklist of things to watch out for that are signs that your suspension needs attention. Now, there are signs to look out for to know that your suspension is in trouble. For example, if you can feel every bump on the road and those bumps make your car bounce a lot, then it's time to check your suspension. How do you do that? Well, you could do the bounce test. Press down on each corner of the front of your vehicle with all your weight. Bounce it a few times and then release it. If it bounces up and down more than 3 times after it is released, then it's time to head to the garage. Do the same for the rear suspension. Now, if your car pulls excessively when you're cornering, that could be a sign that your shocks are failing. There are also other signs to look out for. For example, if your car dives excessively while you're braking, or squats while you're accelerating, or rolls excessively round a corner. Now remember that these things would happen if you were pushing a car hard and driving spiritedly anyway. It's only if it happens when you're driving under normal conditions that it's a cause for concern. And finally, you take a look at your tires. If the treads have worn out unevenly, then it's a sign that your suspension does need attention. It means that it's putting uneven pressure on the tires. It's time to get it checked. Now remember that ultimately your suspension system is connected to your tires, which connect you to the road. So using all the technology in the world won't help if you have bad tires. Hope you've enjoyed watching this episode of The Art of Driving. Keep watching for more useful tips and all the handy information that you need to know about your car.